Sergeant's lab initiating in 3, 2, 1. Sergeant George, online.
With beautiful sunny skies here in New York City, but the virus is still in effect, we can only pray and hope to God that for the reopening, not just here in New York, but also across the world, sooner or later. So that goes for sports, as a matter of fact. Hello, everyone, and welcome inside the Sergeant's Lab, episode 4 of the podcast series. I am alongside with one of my best friends ever since kindergarten, and now recently graduated from the University of Rochester with a bachelor's in digital media studies, and a minor in language media communication in John Likanje. How you doing, brother?
I'm doing good, man. Just enjoying the weather, even though we're still in the middle of a crisis. It's good to see that, at least the weather's cooperating. It's been a beautiful Memorial Day weekend, beautiful Tuesday afternoon. So yeah, just been enjoying it. It's been good.
Yeah, absolutely. I actually just went out yesterday to, just to get some work in to, stretch my legs because, dude, it honestly was a beautiful day for the past couple of days. So, obviously, what we're talking about today is going to be two topics that a lot of sports fans are really speculating about, and that is both the NBA season trying to make a comeback, and when is the MLB going to be starting? So, with that being said, let's get right into it. First thing we're going to talk about is relating to the NBA season. As we all know, the NBA season, along with other sports around the nation, has been suspended or canceled for some of the rest of the season. The NBA is trying to come back and somewhat around late July. As projected right now, it's going to be July 15th. They've been trying to make some sites, trying to create some sites, some possible sites to where they can actually go to. The only site they could probably think about is the Worldwide Sports Arena in Orlando, Florida, which seems to be a very popular spot for all sports around the nation. I remember Iona had to play their MAC tournament last year for volleyball, and played at that location, and they actually won the MAC championship and went to the NCAA tournament. So, John, what are your thoughts? So, I want to get your thoughts about like what the NBA should do and how they should really tackle this if they really want to try to push and actually make the NBA season start to resume or restart.
Yeah, well, first, I just want to say, you brought up a good point there about Orlando, being a good spot for them to really, restart the season, because they just announced that Universal Studios is going to reopen, I believe, on June 5th. Mm-hmm. Although there will be some restrictions in place. But no, that's a good point you brought up there. And, we really heard about, it seems like for the latter part of a month that the sites were going to be Orlando and Las Vegas. But it seems that the NBA decided to move forward with strictly going with Orlando with the only site. And I did some research. It seems part of it is because recently in the past couple of weeks, Las Vegas had some really, really dramatic fluctuation in number of cases. According to the Southern Nevada Health District, between May 12th and May 22nd, so that's an 11-day span, Clark County, that's the area where Las Vegas is located, they're averaging 68 cases per day. And if you dive deeper into those numbers, on May 16th and May 17th, there were 33 and 35 cases respectively, which is not that bad, you would think. But then on May 18th, that's literally a week from yesterday, 97 cases in one day.
Jesus.
And then on May 19th, it went down to 67 cases, which is not that bad. But then on May 20th, so that's 6 days to the day we're recording this, 93 cases. So, you gotta think that the NBA saw that and they just were really iffy about that whole situation. We're coming to Orlando, they've been doing really well recently. In that same time span between May 12th and May 22nd, Orange County, which is where Orlando is located, they were only averaging 22 new cases per day. So Orlando's really been trending in the right direction. So, at least it gives the NBA more of a reason to want to resume the season. in Orlando. In terms of what format they should come back in my opinion, I would prefer to see the 1 through 16 seed.
So they're probably going. So it seems like they're going through like the NCAA tournament kind of stat, which I'm not like against, but it seems like a very iffy situation. A tweet from Keith Smith NBA. If the NBA went 1 through 16 seeds for the playoffs, here would be the matchups. So I'll go very slowly. The first seeded Bucks versus 16 Magic. Second seeded Lakers with 15 against the 15 seeded Nets. Third seeded Raptors versus 14 Grizzlies. 4 Clippers versus 13 Dallas Mavericks. 5 Celtics versus the 12 76ers. Nuggets 6 and 11 Pacers. 7 Jazz, 6 versus the 10 Rockets, and 8 and 9 respectively for the Heat and the Thunder. So Keith Smith is looking like the NBA is probably that the NBA could probably go East. Some of them, the matches for the playoffs will be East versus West. I want to know about that. That seems interesting to me.
Yeah, no, and as you mentioned, the playoff seeding matchup. There are some very interesting matchups there, especially in the middle tier there. As you mentioned, you have Toronto, Memphis. That'd be an excellent, really competitive series. Even because there's the 2 very athletic teams that they like to get out and they like to run in transition. Especially with Memphis, you have John Morant, Jaren Jackson. You have they're a young athletic team because Toronto, they're really athletic with Pascal Siakam. They got really good shooting with Kyle Lowry and Fred VanVleet. So that'd be a really good matchup. And then as you mentioned, you also have Lakers and Nets. You have Kyrie, which that's another situation because a lot of players would be coming back from injury. So you have probably Kyrie and maybe Kevin Durant, although I know they said that Kevin Durant wouldn't come back if the season did resume, but still, like, you got that against LeBron. That's an interesting matchup. And then Boston and Philadelphia, that's been a big rivalry the past 3 years now. It's gonna be a good series no matter how the games go. And then Denver and Indiana, that'd be a good series. Utah and Houston, that one would be really interesting because you got Russell Westbrook against Mitchell. That'd be a really interesting matchup. I know that they've had their beef in the past, but James Harden has dominated the Jazz throughout his career, especially in the last couple of years when they play in the playoffs. James Harden's numbers against the Jazz have been incredible. And then Miami, OKC, I can see OKC upsetting Miami. I know Miami, they got off to a really hot start, but they're really struggling, towards before the season got suspended. So yeah, that'd be some really interesting matchups.
Yeah. So that as of now, some of the NBA has announced that most of the expansion of individual workouts has now been projected to be June 1st. Some of the I think in New York, some of the facilities have opened back. Are starting to open back as well, but they're really putting some really hard restrictions as to who can work out, how many players can actually work out in a certain amount of time, and all that kind of stuff. So, we only hope that the NBA season can come back in full swing, especially if they want to go with the playoffs coming around. Now, the only thing I'm really skeptical about. It's not really skeptical, or just more the fact that the NBA actually announced this. If they decide to, do 5, the only thing I don't understand is, like, why would they do 5 games left do the 5 remaining games left in the season and then go straight to the playoffs? Why not just go as we were talking about this before we started recording, that the NHL has announced that they're just going right into the playoffs. Why can't the NBA do the same? I'm just wondering about that.
No, it's a really good point, and I feel like the NBA and the NBA and the NHL, they work really, really closely together in terms of how they like to do things. And I feel like now that the NHL has decided to go right into the playoffs, I feel like the NBA is gonna follow suit, just because, you know, as I mentioned, they like to follow similar formats than whichever one league does, the other league is gonna do. But yeah, no, to me personally, it doesn't really make sense to play out the last 5 regular season games before going to playoffs. And, you know, we were talking about earlier, you know, Damian Lillard came out today and said that if the NBA decides to just go with the last 5 regular season games, that he wouldn't play. Because for those of you who don't know, the Portland Trailblazers, which is obviously Damian Lillard's team, they were 3.5 games behind Memphis for the 8th seed. So obviously with 5 games left, there's no way they'd be able to catch up the Grizzlies, unless by some miracle the Grizzlies lose out and the Blazers win out. But even then, it's not just the Trailblazers. You also have New Orleans Pelicans and the Sacramento Kings, who are right behind the Blazers in the standings there. So if Damian Lillard has a problem with that format, then what about Zion Williamson? You know, what about De'Aaron Fox, the superstars for the Pelicans and the Kings? It just doesn't make sense. That's why I think, like you said, it makes more sense just go right into the playoffs, whether it's a 1-16 matchup or it's just the regular playoff matchup, you know, or even the World Cup group stage idea they came up with today. Actually, I'm a really big fan of that idea, but I think the 1-16 matchup makes more sense because there's less trial and error there. It's pretty straightforward.
Talk about something that also has been a thought for the NBA, and it's the NBPA trying to do all these conference calls and trying to get everything back into rhythm.
Yeah, so they said that the Board of Governors are going to be meeting with Adam Silver tomorrow, and also the NBPA. From what I understand, the executive director Michelle Roberts, she sent out a memo, I believe, to every team, or she had a conference call with every team on whether they'd like to resume the season. And apparently, there was an overwhelming amount of support. But the only thing I'm wondering about is there an overwhelming support? Are most of those players from the good teams, the teams that are set to play in the playoffs, or is it just overall where it's the good teams or the bad teams? Because we mostly heard about the good teams, they want to come back, like LeBron James, for example. LeBron James, he wants to come back, but it makes sense because it's the Lakers. You know, they were one of the championship favorites this year, so I could easily see LeBron James or a player of that caliber who's in a really good position to make the playoffs wanting to come back over a Damian Lillard, where you're on the fringe of the playoffs and you might not get a fair chance to get in because it's never a guarantee.
Yeah, so that's why NBA players are very skeptical. I wonder what the mindset would be for a lot of most of these NBA players, especially the ones who are in the lower seed. It's like, oh, we're playing 5 more games and then we're basically done. That's why that's another thing too. I didn't even realize that till now. 5 more games left in the season for some of the teams. They're not even gonna make the playoffs. And they still have to play regardless. They have to face these up-tier teams that are trying to make the playoffs and actually trying to go through these 1-16 seeds if that actually happens. And then they're just out. That doesn't make any sense.
Yeah, exactly. And I mean, at least I thought about the bright side. Like the only bright side I can see is if the fans of those teams, maybe they want to see their guys in action one more time before the off season. But even then, we have no idea when the off season is going to start. And they're reportedly deciding on moving the draft back to September and then free agency until October. So that means that, okay, you play out the last 5 regular season games, then you won't see them in action in meaningful games until what, December? Because there's speculation that next season would start on Christmas or maybe even earlier than that. We don't know yet.
Let's go transition right into the MLB, because the MLB has not actually, as obviously as we know, has not started yet, but there have been a lot of speculations. So as of now, according to a CBS Sports report, the team's proposal, the components of the proposal, is that they will have 82 games, regional schedule with a universal DH, both the American League and National League both have a DH. Have an active 30-man roster with a 20-player taxi squad. 14 teams in the postseason will play in their home cities in October, and then there will be a 50-50 revenue split for the players and owners. Here's the thing I will say: the 82 games is gonna be. Here's the thing I will say about this: the 82 games is a very good decision. I will think about that. 30-man roster with a 20 player taxi squad is a very good idea because you don't want to have too many players on the field because of the virus and all that kind of stuff. The only thing I'm very concerned, I'm not really concerned about for my sake, it's more the players' sake in terms of revenue and how this is actually going to be, is it actually going to be televised and whatnot, how much revenue they're going to actually make, because there's probably going to be no fans there. I'm wondering how much revenue these players and owners and teams are actually going to make when the season actually starts somewhere around July.
No, yeah, absolutely. You said right there, revenue is definitely the big question there. And we were talking about, before recording, this whole situation, it's just funny and it baffles me. Like, whenever you hear about a pro sports league where it's the players and the owners, or the players in the league, they're divided over money, 9 times out of 10 it seems to be baseball, where you have these players that are just not making that much money, despite the fact that there's no salary cap in baseball. Like, now we've heard the latest report is that players will be paid on a sliding scale, which for those who don't know, that means that the highest paid players in the league would get a bigger pay cut. I believe that means they probably get, let's say they probably get like half their salary, where the lowest paid players, they get close to their full amount of salary. It just doesn't make sense. Like, and I'm sorry, but I have to disagree with the people who are angry at the players for dragging this out and arguing over the money. Like, I have to disagree with them, because it's really important, for these players to get the maximum amount of value that they're worth.
Like, look at some of these contracts that some of the players are actually getting. We were talking about this before. Bryce Harper, Manny Machado especially getting a 10-year, $300 million contract with San Diego, and it's just ridiculous how much these players are making. So it doesn't make any sense. And also the fact that some of these franchises, especially here in New York with the New York Yankees, and one of the biggest franchises in baseball history, has a lot of money to actually do a lot of things for not just themselves, but around the league. So it doesn't make any sense to me. And also the fact that it's also a big with this split. It seems very inconsistent, because some of these players might not get that much recognition and all that kind of stuff in the amount of pay they should be getting. Yet who knows, they might actually pop off in the regular season. So who knows? Some of these young players coming up into the league who got drafted can also come up as well. You have a lot of young talent that is also coming up as well. Like, for example, like Vladimir Guerrero Jr. Like, that's gonna be the biggest issue for some of these players and some of these franchises.
No, yeah, absolutely. And one thing I wanted to bring up was, I don't know if you heard about the whole Blake Snell situation, but apparently, I think Blake Snell, he pretty much said what I believe a lot of the players were saying, and surprisingly enough, he got a huge amount of backlash for that. Now, I understand that there are some things in there he shouldn't have said, and that he had to backpedal on some of the stuff he said. But in a way, I kind of agreed with him, because even though, like you said, that a lot of these owners, a lot of these franchises, they make a lot of money. And as you mentioned, you have Manny Machado and Bryce Harper who are getting paid $300+ million. That's because that's what their contract is. Doesn't mean they're getting the full guaranteed amount. Now, you gotta think about it. Okay, after taxes, even then, you gotta pay your agent. If you have a personal trainer, you gotta pay your personal trainer. You might have to pay. You might have a house where you have to pay for a house. These players, they have multiple houses. There's so many expenses that these players have to worry about, that it's understandable. You have to be empathize with these players and be in their position of why they believe they should get the maximum amount of value that they're worth.
Yeah. So what are they? So going along with that, what are the sites that are like projected to actually being landed? I think it's going to be almost a similar situation with the NBA, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, so they were talking about Arizona. Arizona was definitely number one, which makes sense because spring training, there's a lot of facilities down there. And obviously, as we talked about with the NBA, Orlando was a site as well. So it seems that I'm not really sure that I believe they'd be going with Orlando. That would make more sense. But since the NBA decided to go to Orlando as well, I just personally it wouldn't make sense for both leagues to be there just because they want to try and like limit the spread. So if that's the case, either go to Arizona where it will make more sense because then you don't have to worry about the NBA or there being a max influx of people there, or just go with the regional schedule where you just have teams play at a certain site. And also speaking of this whole schedule, it seems that one thing I want to mention is that you're going to have basketball and baseball going on at the same time. And obviously in terms of ratings, even though basketball's ratings were down this year, when both these sports come back, let's be realistic here. Basketball is going to get an overwhelming amount of support, overwhelming amount of ratings. So that's why, in my opinion, when baseball does come back, because I know they decided on the schedule, but they haven't decided on like what time teams will play. I say you have a bunch of games during the day, so that way you let the NBA games play at nighttime. That way there won't really be a huge influx or like disturbance of ratings.
Yeah, that, and also the NBA and the MLB also. I would think or hope that the NBA would probably configure with each other and try to like play on different off days. So let's say if the NBA has an off day, like the NBA, an NBA team, or like no one plays on that day in the NBA, maybe the MLB can actually have that entire slot that day. So and then vice versa for the MLB going with the NBA. So that's gonna be a whole thing too. I wonder how the schedule is going to work, especially when the NBA playoffs come too, because remember, when the NBA playoffs come, that's going to be the most, as you mentioned, that's going to be the most watched. That's going to be the most watched in terms of sports, and obviously because the only thing in sports right now that's going to be really actually opened back up. I'm wondering that the other thing I'm also wondering is the fan situation. Where is that going to play in? Because it seems that the MLB is already already hinting, and it seems that they're leaning in the direction that that there's going to be no fans already, because I think I've already seen games already been played internationally without fans. I think Japan had that same situation.
Yeah, that's a really good point that you brought about the Bundesliga league. Because I don't know, a lot of the players have been breaking quarantine or breaking social distancing rules. So the NBA and the MLB, they're really going to have to crack down on making sure the players, don't break quarantine, don't break social distancing rules.
It's going to be tough because like the only way for people to actually see it is actually watching it on TV, watching on their phones, through the ESPN app or any of the local stations that they have. So it's going to be a tough situation I wouldn't say it's going to be a tough situation, but it's the only way to actually give the viewers the chance to actually see and witness their players and teams on their respective like states and countries, to actually see them play.
Yeah, and in terms of the fans, personally, I think that the NBA and MLB, I think they'll be playing with no fans, and I think but the only thing that's really weird about that is that the NFL, if you didn't know, the NFL, they said they're planning on playing with fans. But the thing is, though, the NFL, that's not a guarantee as well, because we don't know how long this pandemic is going to pan out. So I think personally, the NBA and MLB will be played without fans. Although with MLB, at least they have more leeway because they're big stadiums, and also they'll be playing into October and November. Maybe in the postseason you can have fans, as if this thing is over by then, or at least close to over. But I think at least for the majority of the regular season, or at least for the start of the regular season, I think it's safer to just play without fans. Although, to be fair, I know that some leagues, some lower level leagues, they have been playing with fans. For example, I believe in out west, I forget what state it was, but I know their American Legion baseball league, they played with fans, but they just had the fans spread apart. And
it kind of makes me laugh a little bit because I wonder how the staff would handle that. Like, oh, you can only sit in this one. Like the tickets will be reserved for that spot. They like put tape on the seats or whatever to actually make sure it's like 6 feet apart and all that kind of stuff. Imagine they put like literally they put like duct tape around literally on the seats for making sure it's 6 feet apart from whoever sits there.
Yeah, that's why I'm like, all these things they gotta worry about, and that's why I feel like it'll make more sense for them to start season without fans, and then eventually, once this thing slows down, then you play with fans maybe in the postseason. But the only thing is, you're gonna have to limit, how many fans can enter per game. Like I know, for example, like airlines, like I believe what airlines are doing, because they still need to have flights, is they have passengers. They have one passenger per aisle.
Yeah.
So they'll have like one passenger and like two, like by a window, and then the next passenger will be like in a window in an aisle seat. So I think if baseball tries to do something like that, or maybe even the NBA, we don't know. We'll have to wait and see. I think that'd be a good first step towards having fans come back this year instead of waiting till next year.
Yeah, and I think also just going back with the NBA, I think that with the fans' perspective too, with that one, I think it's not going to come back anytime soon until next season, because from the NBA, from NBA CBS Sports, stating there is no indication that fans will be allowed in the single site format for the reassumption of 2019-2020 season. There is also an uncertainty whether fans will be able to seat in 2020-2021, which is a part of the reason why the idea of pushing back the start of next season until December is reportedly to gain momentum. Adam Silver and said the league is exploring the possibility of bringing back fans as 15 to 20% capacity for the 2020 and 2021 season.
Yeah, exactly. That's why I think cameras, definitely are gonna have to be important. And that's another thing too that leagues are gonna have to worry about, because you don't only have to worry about the players and their trainers, but you also need media to be there to announce and cover the games. You can't just have players and you can't just have the players and the trainers there, and then just have like maybe a media member or someone announce it from nearby remotely. It's better for the announcers to be there, and actually take in the game atmosphere, and tell the fans what's going on. Like Mike Green, for example. The reason why Mike Green is one of the best play-by-play announcers of all time is because he knows how to interact with the fans, tell the fans exactly what's going on. We feel that atmosphere. Me and you, we're both broadcasters. The atmosphere, being there watching the game is much more definitely than reporting on the game remotely.
Well, hey, we're all hoping that both of these leagues come back in full swing, especially these two, because we really keep these ones close to our heart. We've played these. We grew up watching our favorite players, especially for John, who's a Knicks fan. I'm very much for the New York Yankees. He's for the Mets, and we're all really wondering when sports will come back, and hopefully very, very soon, especially with the virus still, and the fact that everyone please stay safe. So, John, if you want to drop your Twitter handle, for the viewers to know where they could reach out to you if they want to talk to you or anything like that.
Yeah, my Twitter handle is @JML5798. That's @JML5798. And yeah, if you ever want to reach out to me, my Twitter DMs are open. I'm happy to speak and interact with the fans.
Same thing with me. I am on Instagram. Sergeant Matt George 22. That is SGT Matt George 22. We'll put our links in the description for our social media pages. Subscribe to as with that being said, subscribe to the Sergeant's Lab channel, as we want to keep this channel going. John and I will be back here once again to talk more about sport, a lot more sports as things are starting to really get back into play, and hopefully very slowly and minimally everything will come back into fruition. So John, thank you for being with me today.
Yeah, no, thank you for having me. I'm really glad to be part of this.
All right, and this is the Sergeant's Lab. This is Matthew George signing off. Take care, everyone. Have a good day.